Hello everybody, Donnie here, and welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. I hope all of you are doing well and fine today. We're going to dive right into this. This is actually the continuation of the previous two stories. Update: my 26 female fiance, 28 male, slept with my sister, 32 female, heartbroken and devastated. I can't move on. Original post: hi Reddit, I'm posting here in hope that someone can give me some advice, share their experiences. I don't know. I'm just completely at a loss. I feel like my heart has been ripped out. My fiance, let's call him Jake, and I have been together for 7 years. I don't know a life without him. I met him at the university, we stayed together past graduation, and moved into a flat which we bought 2 years ago together. He proposed last summer, and we were set to wed in July of 2017. We've had very few problems until now. My sister, let's call her Sarah, is an extremely volatile person. Growing up, I doted on her completely, but she had a lot of personal issues that made her home life turbulent. Her childhood was very different to mine. My parents had very little money, and they were on the brink of a divorce. My dad was physically violent on a number of occasions. Whilst things improved drastically in the years after I was born, she has an abundance of problems that stem back to this. My parents feel a lot of guilt about Sarah's upbringing and used to let her get away with some shocking behavior. Sarah had the same boyfriend for as long as I can remember. They dated from when they were 16, and their relationship was toxic. They habitually broke up and got back together when they were good. They were crazy in love. But more often than not, she would have these insane arguments, sometimes physical with him, then take out her frustrations and despair on myself and my parents. I remember spending many nights lying by her side in bed while she cried so hard she would retch. After their arguments, she would throw plates and glasses at the wall, hit herself. Sometimes she would hit me and my parents too. It was like he was a drug to her, and she was emotionally stunted and didn't know or how to see anything past their relationship. 2 months ago, her boyfriend called things off for good. I don't know what gave, but after nearly 2 decades together, he finally had enough. He booked a one-way ticket to another country, changed his number, deleted all social media profiles, and essentially disappeared from Sarah's life. To this day, she still won't explain what caused this, but it was long overdue. To say Sarah was devastated is an understatement. She moved out of their shared rented apartment and in with my parents. I would visit her most days after work, where she would flip in between explosive rage to an almost catatonic silence, staring at the wall with tears streaming down her face. At one point, we were all extremely worried she might seriously harm herself and organized for her to see a therapist, something I had suggested for years. Of course, she backed out days before her appointment, and there were no consequences. She is, after all, a grown woman. She hasn't changed emotionally in the entire time that I've known her and still acts like a teenager. 2 days ago, I went to visit Sarah, who was in bed in her darkened room. I let myself in and attempted to speak to her, telling her about my day at work. She immediately exploded, screaming at me, throwing her pillows across the room, crying uncontrollably. She told me life was unfair, that I had everything and she was left alone to rot, that everything wrong in her life was because she was a bad person. She hurt her boyfriend, she drove him away. She's ruined her family. She effed Jake and didn't even feel guilty at the time. I initially thought that I misheard her, but then she said it again. It was like she had poured out a bucket of ice water over me. I silently left, shaking. When I got home, Jake was there watching TV. It came out of my mouth the second that I saw him, and I could see in his eyes it was true. He broke down and told me it happened 3 years ago. Sarah had another blazing row with her boyfriend and decided to drive around to Jake's looking for me. I was at her parents' at the time, and Jake attempted to pacify Sarah. He comforted her while she sobbed in his arms, and one thing led to another. They had sex. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. I packed an overnight bag while he followed me from room to room, sobbing and telling me it was the worst mistake of his life. You better believe it was. That he still has no idea how it happened. That he felt unbelievably guilty the second it was over, that it feels like it wasn't even real. I left him in the doorway begging me not to leave. I've checked into a hotel and have switched off my phone. I don't know what to do, who to tell, where to begin. I feel sick, like this is a bad dream. My heart feels like it's been ripped into a million pieces. For all of Sarah's faults, I love her more than anything. It's the two people who are more to me than anyone else in the world. How the F do I move on from this? I feel like I'm in a bubble. I don't know what's going on in the outside world. All I do is cry and sleep in this room. Someone please help me make sense of this. Now for the comments before reading the update. To me, the most important part of this story is that she chose to tell you right now, not 3 years ago, right now. Why? Because her relationship is over, and so she wants yours to be over too, so that you can both be miserable together. Now think about her breakup. He didn't just break up with her, he left the country. He didn't just leave the country, he disappeared. You are currently holed up in a hotel room hiding from her. He moved away to hide from her. Why is no one calling this person on her shit? Why are the people most in need of therapy the ones most resistant to going? In your situation, I would do this. Tell your parents, matter-of-factly, what happened. Tell them you don't feel comfortable returning to their home until they draw a harder line with forcing her to see some kind of counseling. If she did this to you, she did things that are much worse to her ex-boyfriend and stands to do even more horrible things to your parents. They need to act now. She may be an adult, but she behaves like an adult with a profound personality disorder. She may never admit this, but with a little luck, she might find a counselor who can actually help her contain it. Your boyfriend is a separate issue. This happened 3 years ago, and it doesn't seem like he ever had any plans to tell you. This second part is far more problematic. So the question is, do you think you can ever trust him again? Be honest with yourself here. I do think it's possible to recover from cheating, but it's a double whammy when it also involves a mentally disturbed sister. So the discussion becomes, what, if anything, can he do to earn your trust again? If you know deep down that answer is nothing, then you have to begin the miserable task of moving on. And it is a miserable task. Heartbreak on this level is the worst. You might consider seeking counseling or a support group, not because there's anything wrong with you, but because you're having totally reasonable reactions to being betrayed on this level. For me, I find that sometimes the greatest gift a counselor gives you is telling you, yes, that was awful. Go ahead and be in pain. With a support group, you get that plus the companionship of people suffering similar hurt. They will get it in a way few others will, regardless of whether your decision is to fight for the relationship or let it go. This person says if it were me, I'd be done with both of them, and I agree with that 100%. Your sister betrayed you big time and she's lived without consequences for too long. I would cut myself off from her completely. Delete her phone number, delete her from your social media. Don't answer her phone calls. Don't hang out with her. Don't confide in her. And don't listen to her troubles. She lives with your parents, so you will see her, but she's officially an acquaintance from now on. Your boyfriend slept with your sister, then proceeded to hide it for 3 years. It's not all your sister's fault, although you may be inclined to feel that way since she is so dramatic. He was there and he was stone cold sober. There is no, it just happened. Whether he feels guilty about it, it doesn't matter. He not only cheated on you, but he cheated on you with the worst person he could cheat on you with. And then this person says, honestly, it didn't sound like your relationship with your sister was at all healthy even before this. The fact that someone who displayed these kind of behaviors has never received therapy is atrocious. As much as you love her, your family failed her. And as much as you think she loves you, this relationship is toxic. You should have considered cutting her out even prior to this. Now it's vital. Ask yourself if you can honestly trust him after this. After hiding something for 3 years, to be honest, if there was any attempt at salvaging this situation, he should have told you 3 years ago, and not only when he was confronted. That's a sorry I got caught, not a sorry I effed up. He has been lying to your face every single day for 3 years. What happened the morning afterwards, and how could he bear to look at you with a poker face for 3 years? What else will he blatantly lie to you about through pure cowardice? And for how long? I say this because therapy can only do so much. It's not only some magical cure-all that can make all problems go away. I've seen posts on here where couples stayed together for years, but afterwards the trust is forever broken and there is a huge resentment despite counseling or therapy. If in your heart you know you can't truly forgive him or trust him for this, it's better for both of you to end things now rather than drag it out. You cannot coddle your sister just because she's depressed or has unstable moods. Those simply help to explain her behavior, but in no way ever excuse it. Whether or not you want to cut her out of your life is completely up to you. At the very least, don't focus on her problems. Focus on taking care of yourself. You don't owe it to either of them to contact them until you're ready. Take some time to think things over and pamper yourself. You are so young and you have so much time to enjoy your life. Don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy, whether you feel like you have to waste more time because time was already wasted. This hurts so much now, but maybe a few years down the road, you'll be walking down the aisle with someone you can completely trust. Now for the updates. Update 1. Hi everyone, I logged on to this afternoon to find 300 plus replies and messages to my post. I am unbelievably touched by all the people who reached out to me, particularly you, Fractal Faye's incredible response who spoke to me on a level I didn't think possible from a stranger. I'd like to thank each and every single person who took the time out of their day for me. I was so overwhelmed that I have not responded to a single one as of yet, but it's truly appreciated. Now on to the update. It has only been a day or so since I made my post, but it feels like I've been in that hotel room for weeks, crying in the dark, buried under the covers. At some point this morning, I decided to draw the curtains open and let the sunlight in. I went and sat on the balcony and switched on my phone for the first time. It started ringing within 30 seconds. It was my mother who burst into tears as soon as I answered. Her and my parents had obviously been desperately worried. This is the longest I've ever gone without contact, and had even contemplated calling the police had I failed to contact them by this evening. My mom informed me that I was walking out of Sarah's room, down the stairs, and out the front door. Sarah was screaming and wailing that she's sorry. Funny enough, I didn't hear this. I don't know how. I think I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't process anything around me. Honestly, I can't even remember the drive home. After I shut the door behind me, my mom, who was the only other person at home, rushed into Sarah's room to find her trashing her room and attempting to slash her wrist with a blunt cutter of all instruments. Sarah used to do a lot of art. Obviously, this barely caused a scratch, but jump-started my mom into action. She drove Sarah to the hospital, where I understand that she underwent some sort of assessment and was kept overnight. She has incredibly agreed to undergo treatment for whatever it is that was wrong with her. My mom was surprised that she was so compliant on the drive down, willingly entering the car and saying nothing other than asking where I am. Sarah seems resigned and completely deflated. My mom spoke to me at length for the first time in my life about the hardships that they had undergone during Sarah's childhood. I am unwilling to go into detail and am still in shock about some of the things that I heard. Sarah is not devoid of responsibility. She has long surpassed the age where she can blame her childhood for her behavior. But my mom admitted through tears that not sending her to therapy at an early age was the biggest regret of her life so far. I asked my mom if she knew why I had left. She admitted that she had known since Sarah's ex left 2 months ago. At this point, I had to struggle not to hang up, and I suddenly felt myself going back into that pit, but she begged me to listen. After her ex, Harry, I am too drained to invent a name, hi Harry, left, Sarah told my mom exactly what had happened. It was not the reason for Harry's departure, although he did know about it. Rather, he had enough of being Sarah's caregiver and years of begging her to seek help and had fallen on deaf ears one too many times. When Sarah informed my mom told Sarah I have got to know immediately. Sarah refused to tell me, and I still don't know why she changed her mind in that moment. My dad doesn't know for anyone wondering and thinks that I've left as I've finally also had enough of Sarah's behavior. Now here's where some of the home truths come out. I asked my mom if she knew the details. She was reluctant to tell me anything, stating that it had happened and that was all that I needed to know. But I told her I refused to step foot in the house until I knew everything. She then proceeded to tell me that a few months before they slept together, Sarah and Jake had kissed at my dad's 60th birthday party. It was a large family gathering with a lot of alcohol involved. I remember Jake getting very drunk with my cousins. Sarah had a crying tantrum prior to arriving as her and Harry had an argument and he refused to come. She called me sobbing before she arrived. At some point during the night, Jake asked her if she was okay and hugged her. And once again, one thing led to another and they shared a kiss in the kitchen. Sarah told my mom that they were both immediately remorseful and vowed never to speak of it again. But Sarah deliberately sought him out the night that they slept together, knowing he was unlikely to turn her down. She openly admitted that she did it to get back at Harry, who had cheated on her during one of their many infamous breaks. I don't think I even entered her thoughts. At this point, I've heard enough. We had spoken on the phone for over 4 hours and I felt mentally drained and physically sick. Any hope I had of salvaging my relationship with Jake was completely gone. I feel the last 3 years have been tainted by their betrayal, and the many years before that, I wonder, did he like Sarah this whole time? Part of me doesn't even want to know. It's worth noting he has made absolutely no attempt to contact me other than a single text stating, "I'm sorry, take as long as you need," as if it's inevitable that I'll come back to him. Things are still up in the air. I don't feel like I'm ready to check out of the hotel as I don't know where I'm going to go next. I feel my relationship with my mom has been rocked by these revelations. I don't know what's going to become of Sarah. I have no idea what I'm going to do about me and Jake's flat. Where am I going to live? I don't even know if I have a job anymore. I just haven't showed up to work. But I know the truth, and the smallest part of me is grateful for that. The rest of me is consumed by a pain I never imagined possible. I guess there's nothing else to do now except wait and see how things unfold. But reading through your comments and messages have been more helpful than you can imagine. Thank you, and thank you again. And for anyone who has ever experienced symptoms like Sarah's, or has been around anyone who is so visibly troubled, I beg of you, seek help before it's too late. Final update. Hi everyone. I thought I'd make a final update to my original post and update, as I've received a lot of messages over the last few days wondering how I am over the holiday period. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for the outpouring of support that I've received over the last month. The number of messages, links to help, and offers for a shoulder to cry on were overwhelming and touching. I apologize if I never got around to replying to them all. The last few weeks have been a blur, but I am eternally grateful nonetheless. So after my conversation with my mom, where I found out that she had known about Jake and Sarah, I went back to square one. I switched my phone off again and retreated back to my hotel for a further 5 days. From the comments on my last post, I should clear up one thing. My mom hadn't known about Jake and Sarah from the very beginning. Rather, Sarah had told her about it at the time of Harry's sudden departure, meaning she had known a couple of months before I did. Eventually, I decided enough was enough and decided to call work. My boss wasn't angry or even surprised to hear from me. My mom had called him after a conversation and told him that there was a family emergency and I would be unavailable for the foreseeable future. He advised I take to the end of the week, but would have to come to a meeting if I required any more time off work than I had already given myself. So my job was safe-ish, and I'm back at work and trying to get on with things. After this, I went back to my parents. Sarah was also home but holed up in her room. I went in to see her and she was up painting. As a number of you guessed, it is likely she has BPD, although my parents are waiting on a second opinion. She is going to counseling weekly and seems slightly better. She broke down in tears when she saw me and we had a long talk, where she spoke in depth about how truly consumed she was by her and Harry's toxic relationship. She understands it's for the best that it's over, but she describes the pain as unrelenting. It hurt when he was with me, and it hurts now that he's gone. I know a lot of you will feel disappointed that I haven't cut her or my mom out of my life for good. I still feel resentment in the pit of my stomach when I think about it, but truly, I blame Jake more than anyone else. Jake was with me for long enough to see some of Sarah's behavior. She's not well, and he still chose to do what he did. It is a slow process, but she's my sister, and I can't cut them out of my life forever. It will never be the same again, but maybe that's a good thing. My dad, who had been newly informed on the proceedings, drove to my apartment and gathered some clothes and an overnight bag. Jake was not home, and my parents have not heard from him since I left. I have no idea where he is, and neither he nor his family have attempted any contact with me since this came out. His social media profiles have disappeared, and I have not attempted any contact with him, his family, or his friends. I began the slow process of telling my friends last week. I did not explain what happened, other than to say Jake was not the person I thought he was. They have all assumed cheating, but there is no reason for them to know who was involved. I have switched back and forth between staying with my parents and sleeping at my apartment. I sleep on the sofa bed as the memories are too painful at the moment. I'm in the process of looking into selling the place. However, this means contacting Jake at some point in the near future, as the apartment is joint owned. I will cross that bridge when I feel a bit stronger. Christmas Day was a strange and sad one for both myself and Sarah, but we spent it as a family, and for the few hours we were sitting around eating and watching movies, the pain was dulled even a small bit, as we were flicking through the various movies and TV episodes we'd recorded. I came across a scene that stuck with me, a scene that ended with the words, "La familia es todo." I will spend the rest of my days with a hole in my heart. It hurts more than anything that I've ever felt in my life, but it's getting better. And I know that I've got a long way to go, but for the first time, I'm confident I'll get there. Thank you for reading, and here's to 2016. Additional comments. OOP when asked why she forgave her sister and not Jake. I was anticipating this response, and it's not unfair at all. Thank you for taking the time to write it. It is extremely difficult to articulate the many emotions I feel neatly into a readable post on Reddit. There are days where I feel so overcome with hatred and shock that I almost find it difficult to breathe. Other days it seems like a bad dream that I suppress long enough to be able to go to work, come home, eat, sleep, and do not much else. Sarah has not got away with anything. I will always hold her at arm's length over this, and our relationship will likely never recover to the level where I can trust her fully. But it is truly difficult to cut out a family member. Maybe in the future, I'll find that I'm not able to move past this and I will end up removing her from my life. But as it stands, this is what I currently feel, more hatred towards Jake than her. It is a situation in flux, and what I may feel at the time of writing this post could be completely different tomorrow. I'm also intending to seek counseling, which may change my perspective entirely. But for now, it is what it is. Thank you all for the well wishes. And right now, for whatever reason, my heart is hurting more at Jake. All the memories I have of family days outruined by Sarah that he's witnessed, nights I've spent telling him about her, times I've defended her when he told me that she's crazy. I just can't understand how he would go there. Then there's our life together, our plans for our wedding, the memories we've shared, everything he was willing to throw away from someone that I believe he had no respect for. Tomorrow, I'll be angry at Sarah all over again, but today it's Jake. Like I said, it's a situation in flux, and no one day has been the same so far when it comes to my emotions. Thank you for taking so much time to share your thoughts with me. It's greatly appreciated, and in time, I will be able to process your words with a clearer mind. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.